9 funerals, 9 small caskets, 1 mother. Over a span of 14 years, an ordinary family buried every one of their 9 infant children. In 1965, Marybeth and Joe Tinning settled into a quiet neighborhood in Schenectady, New York. They were a young, working-class couple who attended church and worked steady jobs. When they welcomed their first 2 children, Barbara and Joseph Jr., it cemented the image of a normal, growing household. To their neighbors, they were just a regular family building a life together. Yet that image hides a mathematical impossibility. Statistics struggle to account for how a single family could endure the sequential deaths of 9 babies without an immediate investigation from Child Protective Services or local law enforcement. The horror of this case extends beyond Marybeth's individual actions. It is a story of a systemic blind spot and a collective denial that paralyzed the very institutions designed to intervene. The nightmare began in early 1972. Marybeth's 3rd child, Jennifer, died when she was barely a week old. Doctors recorded the cause of death as hemorrhagic meningitis, a natural medical event. Within 10 weeks in 1972, Jennifer, Joseph Jr., and Barbara died. Stamped with distinct labels like meningitis or Rye syndrome, hospitals treated them as unrelated. The deaths continued. Between 1973 and 1980, they lost Timothy, Nathan, Mary Frances, and Jonathan. Explanations blurred into SIDS or undetermined. Medical professionals were practicing diagnostic anchoring. They viewed each fatality as an isolated incident. Instead of suspecting foul play, they defaulted to the theory that Marybeth and Joe carried a rare, fatal genetic disorder. In 1981, the family lost their 8th child, Michael, following a reported fall. Michael was adopted. He shared no biological DNA with Marybeth or the previous 7 children. His death contradicted the genetic theory entirely. Yet it still failed to trigger a formal investigation. Because no single agency reviewed the family's entire history, the fragmented health system effectively shielded a serial killer. Each tragedy was viewed in a vacuum. That denial extended into the Tinning home. In 1974, Joe Tinning was hospitalized after Marybeth secretly poisoned his grape juice with barbiturates. Even after she admitted it, Joe refused to press charges, choosing to maintain the facade of a grieving family. In August 1985, Marybeth gave birth to her 9th and final child, a healthy baby girl named Tami Lynne. On December 20th, the 14-year cycle of silence ended. Marybeth called 911 to report that 4-month-old Tami Lynne had stopped breathing. Tami Lynne's autopsy provided what 14 years of previous records lacked. Doctors found clear physical signs of suffocation, markers that could not be attributed to a genetic defect or a viral illness. This physical evidence forced law enforcement to intervene. Schenectady detectives brought Marybeth in for questioning, finally confronting the history they had overlooked. Her confession was delivered in a chilling, flat tone. Marybeth admitted to smothering Tami Lynne and 3 of her other children with a pillow. She claimed she wanted to spare them from suffering because she believed she was a bad mother. The autopsy results dissolved the illusion of a family cursed by genetics. The tragedies were entirely manufactured by the one person tasked with protecting the children. Psychiatrists later identified a specific pathology behind the killing spree, factitious disorder imposed on another, formerly known as Munchausen Syndrome by Proxy. Marybeth's actions were not driven by rage, but by a pathological need for the community's attention. She induced medical crises to assume the role of the grieving victim. Every time a child died, neighbors and church members rallied around her. The deaths became a horrifying coping mechanism, allowing her to trade the pressures of motherhood for the emotional support of a mourning community. When Marybeth stood trial in 1987, prosecutors faced a difficult reality. Because of the passage of time and the lack of earlier autopsies, they could only charge her for the murder of Tami Lynne. The jury found her guilty of second-degree murder. The mother, who had buried 9 children, was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. Marybeth served over 30 years. Despite 6 previous denials, the New York Parole Board granted her release in 2018, citing her advanced age of 75 and her record as a model inmate. She returned to society under quiet community supervision. Legally, she was held accountable for 1 death. The other 8 remain a silent testament to a massive institutional failure. Jennifer, Joseph Jr., Barbara, Timothy, Nathan, Mary Frances, Jonathan, Michael, Tami Lynne. Their lives were the cost of a society that trusted too easily and questioned too late.